You are most welcome in our second class for standard 8th and 10th classification of resources. Previously, already we understood that the definition of the resources, the utilization of the resources, and the classification of resources. According to exhaustibility and many others, already we understood that different types of resources. Today we are going to study on the topics of the classification of resources on the basis of ownership and on the basis of status of development. On the basis of ownership, there are four types of resources. On the basis of ownership, there are four types of resources: individual resources, community-owned resources or community resources, national resources, international resources. These are four types of resources that are categorized by the basis of ownership. Individual resources are those resources which are individually ownership. Means many plots of land, many individual parks, many individual pasture lands. These are considered as the individual resources because many people given or donated given the revenue and revenue for the fields or lands and get the ownership of that particular land or fields. So in this way, these are considered as the individual resources. Individual houses is also included in this individual resources. Parking, individual parking, and in urban centers, in urban regions where parks and private plots of lands, these are considered as the individual resources. Second is community resources. Many resources which have ownership of total community level of people. No any one people or no any one person have individual ownership on this. Like community house, schools, these are considered as the community owned resources or community resources where the ownership of not a single person, ownership of the total member of societies. In school, no any single person can live, single students can study, but all the students that are live in the society and they are able to admitted the school and community level of people, community level of students can study in the school. So in this way, the school, the in burial places where many people died and they are buried under the deep the earth. So these are the community resources. National resources. National resources are those resources which are found under the boundary of the country. Under the boundary of country means suppose it is the boundary of our India, and in this under this boundary of this country a lot of resources are found, like rivers are found, fields are found, minerals are found. All of these are found under the boundary of the nation, boundary of the country. So these are considered as the national resources. Notice that the exclusive economic zone, that are approximately 200 nautical miles. 200 nautical miles. Nautical miles. These under these areas, if any resources are found, these are the ownership on these resources have the country India, because it is under exclusive economic zone of the country. So the resources that are found in these regions, the total ownership of these resources become the country India. So these resources are found in considered as the national resources for the country, and the minerals, the air, the water, the atomic powers, and the minerals, all of these are that are found under the country. These are considered as the national resources. Other is the international resources. International resources are those resources on which the ownership of international level of organization like UNO, United Nations of organizations, that have the areas, the resources that are found on out of 200 nautical miles of any any exclusive economic zone of the nations. Suppose in these Indian Oceans were 200 nautical miles. After 200 nautical miles, if any resources are found, and no any countries are closer to the 200 kilometer, 200 nautical miles, so these resources are considered as the international resources, because these resources are found in no any countries can have ownership on these resources. So in these regions where these resources are found, and these resources are considered as the international resources. On these resources, the ownership of the international level of, like the United Nations have total ownership on these resources. Like Dogger Bank, for example, Dogger Bank that are found in out of exclusive economic zone of any country, all the countries. On this Dogger Bank, where a lot of fisheries, or a lot of fishes can produce, and a lot of fishes can breed. So on this Dogger Bank, the international level of organization UNO have total ownership. So in this way, this Dogger Bank and many other areas which are outer of exclusive economic zone of a nation, that resources are found in international resources. On the next classification of the resources are the status of development. Status of development on the basis of status of development, there are 4 types of resources: potential resources, developed resources, stocks, and reserves. Potential resources are those resources which have potentiality for the nations. They are not utilized by the society in present scenario, but if the technology may develop, or economic sufficiency may grown, on that condition, that resources can be utilized by the countries or nation. So these resources are considered as the potential resources. Like in Rajasthan regions, where a great potentiality of windmills or wind energy and solar energy, but it is not properly utilized by our state government or the central government. So these are these are considered as the potential resources when our technological sufficiency may developed and our economic sufficiency may grown. On that situation, India can utilize the solar energy, solar power, and wind energy of the Rajasthan. And next is developed resources. Developed resources are those resources that are totally utilized by the nations. Totally, it means the utilization of the resources that started in the country. They are considered as the developed resources, like mineral resources that already mined out by the national authority, national entity, and utilized by the country. So these are all these resources, like air, like water, like fish, and fishing, and the fields. All of these are utilized by the people, and these are considered as developed resources. Stocks are those resources on which technology are not available for the nation. In nations where sufficient technology are not developed, and many resources that are found in the region of our country, and so this type of resources is considered as the stocks. Actually, materials in the environment which have the potential to satisfy human needs, but human beings do not have their appropriate technology to access this. Means human beings haven't any sufficient technology to reach the minerals, reach the resources, and if the technology is made developed in the country, after that resources are utilized by the nations. So these resources are termed as the stock. Actually, already you understood that water is the two parts, is the mixture of two parts, H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. Means two parts of hydrogen and one part of hydrogen, and hydrogen and oxygen both are inflammable, and these may be used for energy generation. But recently in our country, where technology is not sufficient to utilize these hydrogen and these oxygen as a generating of hydroelectricity and generating of energy, so these resources are considered as the stocks. Reserves, the other classification of resources is that reserves, and reserves are those which are the technology is utilized, the technology is available in the country, but country kept them for future requirement, for the future generations. So these type of resources, they know how technique in the for utilizing the resources, but that countries kept them for future generation. So these type of resources are considered as the reserves. So these are in this way we understood that the total classification of resources that are found, especially in our country and in abroad level also. After that, we should consider on the development of resources. And you know that resources is vital for the nations. Means resources play a vital role for developing the nations. Without resources, no any country can develop, and no any countries can achieve the economic sufficiency. So resources provide all those vitality for the growing of the nations. Many people budge that, or many economists or many people budge that the resources are the free gift of nature. Actually, these are not so. Actually, resources are the functions of human efforts. Actually, resources are the result of human efforts also. If human beings can't utilize their brain, their intelligence, their skillness on the natural stuff, and after that they converted into resources. So it is not a free gift of nature, but in limited way, this is the free gift of nature, because nature provide air, nature provide water, and nature can't take any taxes or revenue revenue from the people. So these are the free gift of nature, no doubt. So actually, free gift means if these are free, so many people utilize these resources on maximum amount, on abundance amount, and create and they utilize more and more resources, and become more and more richness in the society. So the excessive utilization of the resources create a deep scarce or deep areas between rich and poorer. Many those who utilize resources more and more efficiently, they become rich, and those people who can't utilize the resources, they can't become rich. And in this way, this excessive utilization of resources create heavy or deep scars and deep areas, deep differences between rich and poor. So, and due to excessive utilization of the resources, due to excessive use of the resources, the global ecological crisis may created in the nation or over the world. And due to excessive utilization of the resources, we suffer from many ecological crises like global warming, ozone depletion, and pollution level is also may enlarge. So these are the global economic ecological crises, and we suffered from this. But this is the newer scenario that in the this is the lockdown situation for the country areas. And do you know that due to lockdown situation over the world, our ozone layer is maintained approximately 70%. So in this present scenario, our global warming level is also downward, goes downward. Ozone depletion is also maintained, and pollution level is also decreasing due to lockdown. If we regular interval, if we create this such type of action for action in all countries, in the all countries of the world, then we can suffer. We can not suffer from the ozone depletion, from the global warming and pollutions. So this is very necessary for the country like India. Next thing is that if we equitable distribution created in the societies, in the country, it creates the path of sustainable development also. If we utilize the resources in limited amount, then we can save the resources for future generation also, and for future requirement also. So this type of situation and this type of system on which we save the resources for future generation, or we save the resources without any compromising of the future generations need or requirement, we can follow the sustainable development. In this regard, we organize in Brazil, the Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is a city of Brazil, on which in June 1992, the Brazil organized Earth Summit. Brazil organized Earth Summit because on the global level, the environment may become degraded, and global warming may increase. Pollution level is very also in extreme way. Ozone layer is depleted. So on these concerning issues, the countries Brazil organized the Earth Summit in 1992, and these Earth Summit. In this Earth Summit, approximately 100 countries participate, and approximately 100 the presidents of 100 or representatives of 100 nations in the world, and they agree on these international burning issues, and taken many they in this summit the the heads of the nations agree upon 21 issues on the world, which included the environmental damages, poverty, diseases through global cooperation on common interests, mutual needs, and shared responsibilities. And they agreed upon they introduce and they formulate all the agenda of 21 in their countries, in its own countries, in their own countries, on from local level, grassroots level of government on the peak level of the government, like Gram Panchayat to union government level of the government, on which total agenda 21, which are the burning issues on the environment degradation. Thank you very much.